Symbols are a language that can help us understand our past. As the saying goes, a picture says 1,000 words, but which words?
Hi, I'm Jack, and this is an analysis of religion in modern visual culture and the theme of iconoclasm. Iconoclasm being the attack or active rejection of a faith and its icons, even destroying sacred images because they are believed to be wrong or heretical. And I think that in recent years, as visual culture becomes more available and in turn more popular, it also grows more iconoclastic. Specifically, I hope to illustrate how modern visual culture, such as film, television, and video games, condone or even glorify iconoclasm. Now, this isn't a total surprise, considering how Hollywood loves to turn churches, temples, or other religious sites into battlegrounds. Take, for example, this infamous fight from Kingsman's Secret Service. This sequence turned into a scandal for director Matthew Vaughn when it was censored and protested internationally on the grounds of sacrilege. And it isn't the only film or television show that uses a sacred place as the centerpiece for this kind of action. It has become a motif in popular culture, and especially the action genre, to contrast incredible violence against a sacred image. It is a clear choice to make religious spaces the settings for such hyper-violence, and an equally clear decision to pay no other attention to their religious connotation. Take the historical war drama Free State of Jones.
Pick it up!
Or the latest remake of The Magnificent Seven. Or even the recent Netflix film Outlaw King. Meanwhile, on television, there is the Church Massacre from History Channel's Vikings, or in Marvel's Daredevil, where the villain murders a priest in his own church. If you watch The Patriot or Wonder Woman, well, they destroy the church altogether, and the latter character is supposed to be our hero. And then there's John Woo. His relationship with religion is almost overflowing in his action films. After all, he owed much of his life to Christian charities as a boy, and even his education was funded by a local Christian church. Yet, when he tried to become a minister, he was ultimately rejected. Though his films are filled with religious icons, they are never actually addressed. By paying no attention to icons as actually holy, they lose meaning.
I already made you a promise.
It's like in AMC's The Walking Dead, where, when the heroes carry out a series of brutal executions in a church, one of the protagonists states, "It's just 4 walls and a roof." This is a process which ends with religion and its icons being associated first with violence, before actual divinity, or the other sacred meanings for which these icons were originally intended. These are all akin to Homer's The Iliad, which begins with Achilles having just desecrated the temple of Apollo. In the original text, however, this is a symbol of his hubris and the beginning of his downfall. But in the movie adaptation, it's a sign of his independence. He ransacks a temple and kills its priests. But this time around, there is no retribution, no punishment, and no lesson to be learned from his mistakes, because in this movie there are none.
Apollo sees everything. Perhaps it is not wise to offend him.
Huh?
Interestingly, the movie is iconoclastic as a whole, considering it removes literally every scene featuring the gods or divine intervention, who are originally central characters in Homer's epic. Troy transforms a book that is now synonymous with ancient Greek religion and the countless priceless pieces of art that stem from it, and transforms the narrative into an entirely atheistic one, void of the sacred. Meanwhile, religious icons are not the only ones being destroyed. In the United States, there are as many icons concerning their national identity as there are religious icons, and there is no shortage of those being destroyed in visual culture either. National Treasure is a film about uncovering American history, but the heroes either blow up or shoot at every piece they find along the way. And in 2013, both Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down came out the same year. Both films about a group of terrorists attacking Washington, D.C. and taking over the White House. The film isn't propaganda, and it isn't anti-American. They only blow up these specific icons because, just that, they're icons. It's iconoclasm for iconoclasm's sake. But I think that the most telling examples of where we are right now are the images of the treasure hunter, the cool, charismatic protagonist who recognizes the religious and historical importance of certain icons, but then still ultimately destroys them in the end. Most adventure stories begin with the hero seeking out some ancient or holy treasure, then learning it is too powerful or evil, and gives it up, often leaving the treasure to be lost forever. For example, Indiana Jones, who throughout the series finds religious artifacts, even proving God's existence and the Ark of the Covenant in Raiders of the Lost Ark. But how does he respond after such divine revelation? Well, locks it away in a warehouse. Then he learns that the sacred stones in Temple of Doom are in fact magical, and then tosses them off a cliff. Then he finds the Holy Grail, and the 2,000-year-old temple it's stored in, along with the knight who defends it, and then destroys the temple and sends both the knight and Grail into a chasm in the earth. In video games, the hugely successful Uncharted series isn't short of iconoclasm either. Nathan Drake is a treasure hunter, only in it to make a fortune, unlike Jones, who always insists that the treasure belongs in a museum. Ignore the fact that nothing Indiana Jones ever finds actually makes it to that museum. Meanwhile, Nathan, he finds an undiscovered lost city or ancient relic, and then he promptly leaves a paradise undisturbed for thousands of years, crashing into ruins. Furthermore, both heroes usually face off against a religious figure, someone who worships the religious icon and the faith behind it, as opposed to the more cynical protagonist that studies it without any actual sacred gaze. And, in turn, each one that dares to worship a religious icon ultimately suffers for it in the end. The lesson we're being taught is that the worst-case scenario is for our faith to turn out to be true. Religious visual culture is a path to destruction, and we must separate ourselves, leaving symbols behind. This all signifies a trend in modern visual culture to actively undermine the religious meaning behind clearly sacred images. It is becoming an industry based around grabbing attention by using the mystery of faith, and then disregarding that faith altogether. Instead of using holy symbols to inspire revelation, however, now they're used to shock, to excite, or even get a laugh.